You moved from Oz when you were 21 years old. What are the main reasons you don't move back and live in Australia?
There's the famous rat race that we call Sydney, isn't it? People work a lot and everything is work. I guess it kind of makes everyone a bit colder. And then the weekends, a lot of the time, instead of using it just to have fun and enjoy yourself or even relax, it was, nah, let's get fucked beyond misery. And it was kind of like everyone's letting loose everything that they've been suffering during the week. That was kind of what I did feel. And Brazil doesn't have that. Brazil could be a Monday and everyone's on the beach drinking just in a chilled manner, as opposed to sort of letting go a lot of stress.
It's very interesting because we're from two different cities, obviously two biggest cities in Australia. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have is that we live for the weekend. Everybody hates their jobs. Monday to Friday, you're just praying to God that the week ends as soon as possible. Friday comes, you're absolutely launching into as many drugs and beers as possible. You're hungover and depressed on Sunday. Sunday afternoon comes, you're like, oh God, I gotta start this shit again. That's the cycle. There's no enjoyment. There's just suffering and then blasting yourself to forget the suffering, then start again. And then you might get 4 weeks off a year where you're starting to relax, but by the time you've relaxed, you go back to work. Just repeat and repeat and repeat. And that's a big reason why I left. And I was like, man, there's got to be more than this shit. Did you feel that too?
Definitely. There's actually a sort of quote or phrase that I always said: do you live to work or do you work to live? Like, it doesn't make sense. It felt like in Sydney, everyone was living to work. I kind of wanted to flip that on its head. And that's part of the reason why I came here. You know, obviously I wanted to follow my dream, live in my dream city, or a city that connected with me, and do what I love, which is filmmaking. Alongside that comes travel and live a sort of more relaxed, healthier lifestyle. Here in Brazil, they're way more open. I'm not sure if it's an effect that Australia has on people, because I kind of felt that the Brazilians that have moved to Australia have a little bit of that effect in them as well. They start to close down a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
I always say we're very focused on our own things. We don't have time to let people in and be caring about what other people are doing. These are my friends. This is my Monday to Friday when I want to kill myself. I get fucked up on the weekend. Don't come into my zone. I don't have time for this shit. I'm much like you too. I started with a completely different job, managing construction projects, and then started traveling, and now I do videography too. It's just so much more fun. You get to travel, you get to see the world. But what's your work-life balance now compared to if you'd be living in Sydney?
It gets concentrated. So there are periods of time where it's really intense. It could be intense for 3 or 4 weeks. And then the next month could be super laid back, where I'd work maybe 2 to 3 times a week max. And that's it. And I just chill. It's a pretty good work-life balance, because especially in the times where it's not so intense, I just relax. I wake up, I've got a view of Christ the Redeemer here. It makes me smile every day. Super relaxed in comparison to Australia.
Apart from the fact that we work Monday, Friday, whatever, that constant grind of week after week after week after week, you get a holiday, fucking back at it the next year. There's no end in sight until you retire. I'm pretty sure most people would prefer to work hard for a month and then just take a couple of months off. But that's the kind of thing that's not really offered in Oz. You can't really do it. With cost of living, purchasing power is double, triple, whatever. So we can work a third of the time.
Not being an end in sight is a big one. You can't see 40 or 50 years ahead of you, you know. You kind of get lost. Everyone focuses on promotions and things like that, but at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing.
You left when you were 21, and now you live in Brazil. How long do you see yourself living over there? Is this kind of an adventure, or you're a Brazilian now and you're going to stay there forever?
I think I'll always have a base here. My plan is to buy an apartment in Ipanema, and once I've done that, I might lift off and go and do a stint of filmmaking in another country. That way I would create a base here and I'll always come back. It's going to be home for me, essentially.
I will never go back to Oz, just because the quality of life that I have in Colombia, purchasing power, the warmth of people, the just amount of things I can do, there's no point going back to Oz and doing this 9-to-5 shit again. And what's your opinion on that?
I don't think I'll go back to Australia to live. I do think maybe sometimes if I was to have a family, which is still a distant thing for me, maybe bring up kids in Australia would be a good option. And I can't see myself going back to Australia as a single guy ever. There's plenty of differences, of course, as long as you can handle those. It takes a bit of a customizing, I guess. Brazil's sort of connected with me ever since I was a kid, actually. But I think when I came to Rio, I just saw a completely different side of it that I hadn't seen before. And I said, mate, this is my place. All my friends always joke that everyone's going to be married and having kids, and I'm going to be sitting there drinking beers on Ipanema Beach at 60, you know. And I wouldn't complain. I tell you what, I would not complain.
Much like myself Alex is an Aussie. He left at 21, I left at 29. We've both come to live in South America, and we both would say that we'll never ever go back. And hopefully it's given you something to think about. If you have any other questions, just leave them here. I'll be answering all your comments. Maybe Alex will pop in once in a while between beers and answer your comments too. But thank you, Alex.
No worries.
And yeah, mate, maybe we'll see you in Rio sometime soon.